dear to you. And also to worry about the uncertainty of the future. We all have our fears and worries. But when these become a pattern in our lives, then it becomes a problem. It's time for a wake-up call. So with us tonight, to share insights on overcoming worry and fear is Judy Johnson. Judy holds a Bachelor of Social Work and Masters of Adult Education, but she has gone more than holding a degree. But she holds in her vision to make a difference in the world, a love and compassion to save humanity. And this is what she holds to keep going, to serve humanity. So for over 35 years and being a meditator for more than 20 years, Judy has worked as a facilitator and coaching consultant in experiential learning, leadership development, and organizational effectiveness. She works with government, private and community-based organizations internationally and locally. Judy is known for her insight and her ability to go into the depth of a subject in a light and entertaining way. She uses a balance of reflective, creative, and interactive activities to assist individuals and groups to use their natural wisdom, talents, and inner power to create and sustain constructive forward momentum in their organization. As she is gifted with communication, especially in writing, she has authored 5 books, and the titles are The 7 Secrets of the Universe, Beautiful Thoughts, Spiritual Literacy, Living as an Art, and to the latest 2020 released, Return to the Source, the God Experience. So currently, she coordinates the activities in the Meditation Center of Halifax, Canada. So all the way from Canada. Without much ado, please join me in welcoming our dear speaker tonight, Judy Johnson. So please, our pleasure to have you tonight, sister.
Greetings of peace. Thank you, Vicky. What a lovely welcome and warm introduction. I was thinking, how are we going to be light and funny about fear? But let's see how it goes. Thank you for that. I forgot about that part, light.
Yeah.
Lovely to be here. I think it's it's evening for you. Yes, mid-afternoon here for us.
It is.
And I see Rebecca's here from Victoria, so it's morning for her. So we've spanned the whole, it's amazing what we can do on these Zoom webinars, isn't it? So welcome to everyone who's come today. And Vicky's already told you a little bit about myself. I'll probably tell you a little bit more as we go along, just with a couple of stories. But let us begin, shall we? I know for most of you, end of day, you're putting your day behind you and settling into the evening time. Let's just begin with a moment of silence and just settle yourself into your chair. Hopefully you're sitting somewhere quiet, away from too much noise or people. If you can just close your eyes for a moment and take a deep breath in. Just relax into being here for this webinar. Send good wishes to that siren, of course, going by here in Halifax. And just check with yourself, what is your interest in today's topic? Overcoming worry and fear. And I'd like you to for a moment consider, how does fear operate in you? And a second question, how does fear shape your response to the world, to your world, to your friends, your family, your workplace, your community, yourself, your own body? Take a moment and just do a quick assessment of yourself. How does fear operate in you, and how is it shaped your response to the world? Okay, take a deep breath, come out of it now, shake it off. So I'm going to guess that you have fear in your lives. This is correct, that you have a little bit of fear in you. And I was thinking, as I was preparing the PowerPoint, because I think the visuals are so lovely on screens like this. Let me see if I'm sharing. I would like to share. Let's see if I can share. Where's my PowerPoint? I think I can share. There we go. There we go. As I was preparing this PowerPoint, I was thinking, well, we could call this session Lessons Learned from a Lifetime of Fear. Since, I only just turned 62, but I can say fear has been with me since I can remember. So for me, it was a wonderful opportunity just to explore ways to conquer worry and fear, including how I have, I guess my method, my strategies over the years, and how those strategies have changed since I came to meditate with the Brahma Kumaris. So I hope this will be helpful for you. And it was a great reflection for me. And how have I responded to worry and fear? One of my earliest memories is being a little kid. I don't know how young, but those memories you have in your life that have been told to you by parents and told to you by other people. So they're a combination of your own experience, but also other people. So you can't really remember, is that your memory or is it their memory? Well, I have a memory that nobody has touched, because nobody was in the room when it happened. So I think this is probably one of those pure memories. It's really just mine. I remember being behind bars, which I now know is a crib, but I was behind bars, and there were these monsters around me, machines that were beeping and whirring and making sounds and flashing lights. And I was so scared. I think I can't even describe how scared. I can feel it now, panic stricken. I was so afraid of these machines, of these monsters. I thought they were monsters. And I bounced and I bounced and I bounced and I bounced over the railings of the crib. And I landed flat on my chin, and it was a hospital. And it turns out I was in the intensive care unit. I had been there for about a year when I was 2 years old. And they left me alone. And lickety split, the hospital flew in the best plastic surgeon, who was 3 hours away, to fix my little chin, because I still have the scar, because they were so worried about litigation. They were worried about the ramifications of having left me alone in an intensive care unit. I think I was 1.5, maybe 2 years old. So young little thing. And again, it must be my memory, because nobody was there. So the good news is courage has always been with me in this birth as well, because I took matters into my own hand and jumped out of the crib. It wasn't terribly helpful, actually, because I just, so that's another story. But all that to say, many of us have fear going back so far, we might not even remember where it came from. I feel quite lucky to have this little memory, quite a potent little memory. But I feel quite lucky because at least there's a reason for a lifetime of fear. And many of us don't know how much fear we have in us. And you know, we live in a world where these kinds of messages are all over Pinterest, all over Facebook, anybody on social media, or even in a coffee shop when you're telling your tale of woe to a friend of yours, you might get this response from them. Don't panic, stay calm, don't worry, it's okay. This messaging is everywhere around us. And yet, at the same time, gosh, do we have more reason to be fearful? As you know, the reasons for fear increase, it seems also the messages to don't worry, don't be afraid, also seem to increase. So we're stuck in a little bit of a dissonance, a little inner conflict here. And if it's all right with you, I would just really like to explore fear this evening. And to me, worry is just an expression of fear. So I'm not going to go too much into worry as an expression. I actually think it's the most visible, the most noticeable to me symptom of fear. So why don't we just tackle fear head on? And, you know, worry can come along for the ride. So I'm just going to be looking at fear this evening. And it seems to me really that there's all kinds of good reasons, but there's also the reasons we brought with us. So when we think about fear, I ask myself often this question, why am I afraid? But generally speaking, why is there so much fear in us and in the world? And I know that this anxiety, beside depression, which was number one on the hit list for mental health issues in the world, anxiety has now joined depression as number one competitor for the mental health concern in the world. We have so much fear. It's everywhere. It's in the air. I know most of my friends and the people I know, when they come together to tell stories, there'll be he said, she said, there'll be anger, there'll be wrongdoing, there'll be that. But underneath all of it will be this very strong, pulsating sort of vibrato of fear underneath everything. Why do we have so much fear? Gosh, I think it's sort of obvious, really, but hey, because in a material world, in the world we live in, resources are limited. Therefore, we're afraid ours will be taken, or will be lost, or we won't have enough. People die, and bad things happen. We've experienced loss and hurt, and we've definitely all experienced life not going the way we want it to, or the way we think is the best way. I think I'm safe in saying that, am I not? As a general statement for all of us. And basically, we worry it could happen again. So the good news is we're not crazy. Even though anxiety is on the mental health list, we're not crazy. We have reason to be fearful. We have reason to worry. To me, it's a given. It's a starting place. And okay, so now what do we do with that? So for me, the good news, we're not crazy. Welcome to the club. We're kind of in this together. A bunch of fear, a bunch of anxiety out there. So let's explore what fear does to us, because we do have to work with the reality that this energy is in us, that we have to deal with it. And one of the things they say about fear very commonly is that fear stands for false events appearing real. And the events are happening, there's no question. But what I find interesting about fear is more that I have learned with the Brahma Kumaris in meditation, and I actually believe it, even though I don't always feel it, that I do have everything inside of me that I need to manage in any situation that comes in front of me. I think I know that, and only 62 years living, but lots of challenges, lots of difficulties. I can look back and name the times, well, probably not all of them, but certainly some really big ones where I really didn't think I could face the situation or handle what was happening. And somehow I did. So, in other words, I have a track record. And chances are you all have a track record too. And somehow, miraculously, whatever was needed in you did appear. Maybe later in the game than you would have wished. Maybe not to the same degree, but it was there. And I know the reason that I meditate and continue studying with the Brahma Kumaris is because I keep discovering more inside of me. And that what I do have gets strengthened, gets stronger, it gets more competent, and it becomes more prominent. It's now the first thing I see and not the last thing I see when I enter the cupboard and look inside myself to see what I've got to bring to this situation. So given this, though, what fear does to me, so there are big events. They're not false events. They're real events. But what fear does is it makes me forget what I have inside of me. It actually makes me forget the resources that in any other moment I know I have. And that's its biggest power over me, is that it makes me forget what I have inside of me. The events are real, but where the illusion enters is here. Fear makes me forget, because fear causes a perceptual bias. It shapes the way I look at a very real situation, maybe even a very difficult situation, but most importantly, it causes this perceptual bias in how I look at myself. Suddenly, I am shrunken in the face of an obstacle or a big challenge or something frightful. I shrink down to pea size, and this obstacle takes this gigantic form in front of me. So this is fear's particular trick. This is the weapon fear brings to the table, is this perceptual bias. I can no longer see myself accurately, or what I have to bring to the table, what I have inside me to face this situation. Because of this perceptual bias, then what happens is fear rules in my inner world. In fact, it moves in and takes over completely. Now my inner walls are shaking with fear. My vision towards myself is blurry, my heart's racing, my palms are sweating, and I enter that category of anxiety or worry, constant worry. And when fear prevails inside of me, I begin to react. If you look at our world and what's happening right now, from the road rage, I don't know if you're seeing it there in the Middle East, but here in pleasant old Canada, we are having more road rage events, more deaths on the highway since COVID. And in Toronto, which is much bigger than where I live, but still not that big, shootings on the main highways connected with road rage. If we look at the world around us, I often think that pretty much characterized by reaction and reaction to reactions, and then reactions to the reaction to the reaction, and the chain of ripple effects continues. And that's pretty much the state of our world. And at the root of that, fear. Fear that my land will be taken, fear that my house will be invaded, fear that someone will steal my boyfriend, fear that there won't be food for my family, the actual practical situations are very real. But it's the fear that's killing us right now, the fear that is controlling us, that makes us react. I think it was Aruna actually that shared this story. I don't remember the name of it, but I know it's in the storybook that we're creating here for our Rakhi gift. I'll send you one. If Aruna's there, I'll send it to you. But it's a story, when the plague enters town, and I think there's a saint or an angel that meets it, and they make a deal that the plague will actually will only kill one person. And then the next day, the angel or the saint realizes many people have died in this place where the plague has come, and challenges the plague. You promised, you said, only one. The plague responds and says, well, I only took one, but it's fear that killed the rest. So the idea that, yes, many obstacles, many challenges, maybe many real life difficulties are there in front of us, but what's really killing us? It's the fear, the stress response, the quick reaction, the overreaction, the wrong reaction. So when fear prevails in my mind, I react. It can happen on a daily basis, just a trigger, just a quick little, I said the wrong thing. I said it too quickly. I reacted too quickly. And now I have an issue in a relationship that's important to me. And yes, if the relationship's strong and good, I can apologize and it's water under the bridge and finished. But not all relationships have that strength in it. And then I have to make amends. I have to make up for it. And sometimes there's sticky enough waters that a simple apology isn't enough, that it just makes complicated matters worse. So I react, and I react in my own mind if I'm not reacting with words. But certainly my body will experience the physiological reaction to fear. So the adrenals, the cortisol, everything in my body pumps up into overdrive. And, they say most of the illnesses we suffer now are stress related, which is a physiological response to fear. But the thing that becomes for me really troubling is that I don't even know what is a reaction anymore. Reacting has become so normal that we just think that's how things are. And even worse, I begin to think that's just how I am. Like that's my personality to react in this way. But it's not. And this is what we learn here in the meditation centers. We learn that, oh yes, maybe a habit of reacting. And maybe my reaction looks a certain way, maybe different than your reaction, which looks a certain way. And maybe these reactions have shaped and formed the personality of Judy. But that's not who I am. Behind that is that sweet and precious being, the soul, me, the innocent child before all that fear conditioned me and all my reactions, but that it's not normal. Or maybe it's more accurate to say it has become normal, but it's not natural. And it's not my nature. And so we've all adjusted to this normal, as if it was normal to get angry, as if it was normal to be impatient, as if it was normal to react with irritation or mistrust. All of these are reactions. Instead of, okay, yes, this has become normalized, but it's not natural. And that's why I'm suffering. That's why I don't like it. That's why I want it to change. That's actually why I meditate. And why I study, why I understand myself at a more deep level, so that I can draw from a deeper reservoir in any situation rather than the surface level reaction. So for those of you that go to the Brahmacharis, to the meditation center, I'm sure you know this, but a sweet reminder, because what I'd like to do now is explore the 4 classic reaction styles. I think some of you will know these. For those of you who don't, it's new, and this will be fun. For those of you who do, sweet reminder. But in the world of conflict resolution, I work as a consultant to organizations. It's been 38 years now. And mostly I get hired, as a consultant, you begin to be known for something. I work in a small market here. So, word of mouth, I've never advertised. I've never done any marketing, much to many people's chagrin, but I've just never wanted to. I never wanted to sell myself. So the word of mouth is what gets me hired, what has people come to me and say, would you do this? And the word of mouth on the street, the reputation, and therefore what I keep getting hired for year after year after year until I've got good enough at it that people want to keep hiring me, is conflict resolution inside organizations, and usually hired by leaders, the executive team or individual in the organization, private or public sector or NGO. And they want to figure out why sales and manufacturing, the lab and sales, can't get along, because actually it's inhibiting profit. It's inhibiting the quality of the company's offering because they're in constant battle and therefore they're missing deadlines. That's the private sector story. You know, the public sector, it's different details of the conflict, but the point is people can't seem to find their way to work together and cooperate. And so organizationally, it will be a culture change process, or it might be a specific between departments, or it takes different shapes and sizes. But when you enter into these places, you begin to see very quickly the fear that is driving people's reactions. And so one of the first things that's helpful is to detach the person from the reaction. And so even discovering the reaction style is a helpful first step. So I have used this very often in the negotiating or the mediation or the culture change or the facilitation for effectiveness, whatever that is, strategic planning, team building, leadership development, whatever we want to call it. Always the roots will come down to there's something affecting the people and they're behaving a certain way and it's getting in the way. So it might be that we need clarity. It might be that we need, usually it's clarity and usually it's understanding. And with that, greater latitude, new ways to interact and to see the situation and each other. So that's background to these. Now, each of these styles has become kind of normal and they fall in the general category of fight, flight, or freeze, because that's what we do when fear happens. We fight, like me jumping out of my crib. Didn't fight the machines, but I certainly or maybe I fled. Maybe it was a combination of fight and flight, but I didn't freeze. So that was good news. Yeah, I don't tend to freeze. So I know, my reactions would be more in the fight or flight, but all of us, we go back and forth between fight, flight, or freeze. But the reaction is actually just a symptom, and your most visible symptom to know that you are actually having a reaction to fear. That if you dig deeper, you're going to discover you're afraid, but you might not know this because you're so accustomed to your own reaction style. I'm going to share the 4 of them and then just see which one you recognize. And chances are you've got a happy little smorgasbord, a happy mosaic of reaction styles inside of you, but probably one you will recognize as most familiar to you. So here we go. What a lovely slide. It moves. I don't know how it did that, but I'm really happy it did. Here's the first one. So one of the classic reaction styles is known as the turtle. And this turtle style is quite simply escaping. And if you can't leave physically because you have to go to work every day, you can leave mentally or emotionally and not be available, accessible, or present. So you go to work, you do your work, but you do not engage. You're finding a way to hide out. If it's in your cubicle, if it's avoiding the lunch room, whatever you do to avoid it. And if it's in a relationship with somebody you live with, you'll find all kinds of very complex ways to escape having to be with that person in a situation that might make you have to face the difficulty. Being busy is one form of escape. Many of us use busyness as a way to escape those friends we don't want to see, or even in closer relationships where we don't really want to sit down and have that conversation. So escape. You know, and the good news about escaping is we keep alive the virtue and the quality of peace and silence. That's really what a turtle is looking to hold and to maintain, to cherish, to keep alive in any situation, is my peace and my silence. So escaping is one way to do that in the turtle form. From a physiological perspective, the effect of the turtle reaction to fear, it's just a reaction to fear. The physiological impact tends to be in the digestive tract, tends to be with digestive issues. It's like a stuffing of things. So colon and digestive issues is a physiological response to that. And depression would tend to be the mental health issue related to this particular reaction style. So there's one. Good news, you don't have to be there. Bad news, you don't get included in a lot of things, and it never really gets resolved. But it's a reaction style. It's not sustainable over the long haul, but none of these are. Second reaction style is the teddy bear. This is the people-pleasing reaction to fear. So when I'm afraid of how things are going, I might give in really quickly and placate, do whatever others want because it's just easier that way. And then they won't get angry, they won't get upset. People-pleasing is really great for weight gain. Taking the weight of the world on your shoulders. Teddy bears tend to suffer from weight gain or loss or trouble with the neck and shoulders, musculoskeletal neck and shoulder issues, because they take the weight of the world. They're over responsible in these situations and tend to just want everybody to please be happy. So they scurry around trying to make everybody happy, and they get exhausted in the process, and thus the comfort food, you know, or the ways that they comfort themselves because they're trying so hard to comfort everybody else. So the downside is that it's really not sustainable because you lose yourself in that process, in trying to keep love alive. So the beauty is trying to keep love alive and kindness, you know. But it's not sustainable over the long haul because you never then take care of yourself. It's the downside of the teddy bear. Again, it's a reaction to fear. The third one, the one we most associate with reactions. The others we don't tend to think of reactions, but the shark is the outburst, the angry outburst. It's a dominance or a forceful reaction in a situation of fear. It's caused by fear. It's an attempt to control. Actually, all of them are an attempt to control. If not oneself, then at least a small perimeter around oneself. Trying to control because you feel out of control when there's fear. So we know the shark very well. We know the dominance and forceful strategy. It's not very pleasant. Tends to be associated with heart attacks and high blood pressure in the physiological or ulcers. But they do tend to get things out in the open. So that's a good news. They're like lancing a boil. But we also do tend to make enemies or have people be afraid of you. So that's the downside. And for yourself, it's hard on the body to have those reactions all the time. But it is one reaction style. And the last one is the fox. It's an overthinking strategy. It's trying to outthink your own fear. But it's a bit foxy. It's calculating. It can be manipulative. It's trying to work your way around the thing that is causing you fear. And it results in insomnia and migraines, typically head-related physiological issues. And it, you know, people can find you logical. You make bringing logic to fear. So that's the good side. Trying to keep wisdom alive. Sorry for the shark. They're trying to keep truth alive, truth and honesty in the situation. But the fox is trying to keep, you know, wisdom, logic alive. The downside is the headaches, insomnia, overthinking. People like the calmness, but they don't always trust because it can be complicated or manipulating. All of these are just reactions. None of them are wise. They're all fight or flight reactions that I use as a coping strategy when I'm afraid. But the thing is, I have used this coping strategy for so long, or a blend of these for so long, that I actually think that's who I am. And it's who the other people around me are when they're afraid, when in fact, it's just a reaction. But it's become such a consistent reaction that it's shaped and formed my personality. Now I think that's how I am. Oh, I'm always a teddy bear. Oh, I always give in. Oh, it's just how I am. Or, I do lose my cool. I just get angry. That's just how I am. I'm an angry person. Instead of, I have been coping with my fear for decades by getting angry in an attempt to control something, to make me feel I'm in control again, to control the situation, right? Very, very different to think of it as a reaction style to fear, coping strategy, rather than a personality trait. So which one of these, if any, do you recognize in you? And you can write in your own notebook, or you can pop in the chat box if you wish. Again, with the understanding that it's a reaction style, way I have been reacting to the fear that is in me, that I've brought with me, because things have happened to me before, even if I don't remember them. Okay, and I don't, oh, there's one thing in the chat. All of them except the teddy bear. Lovely. Well, now you know where you could visit. You could visit the teddy bear now. Try it on for size, and you will then have a holistic toolkit in your response to fear. But not, kidding aside, there is something for you there in the teddy bear, and probably you'll recognize it when we get to the strategies. So these are just reaction styles, because one of the strategies is about admitting you're afraid. And that actually means being a teddy bear with yourself, giving yourself the hug you need, stopping all those other reactions, giving yourself a hug. Mostly the fox, but sometimes each. And yes, thank you, Miriam. It always depends on the situation. Sometimes at work, we're the shark, we go home, and we're the teddy bear because we can be. It's a safe place. Sometimes the opposite. At home, I'm a shark, and at work, I would never be that. I become more of a turtle or a fox. It's different in every situation. But just to remember, they're just reaction styles. They're all reactions. It's not the one we really want to develop for ourselves. All right, so I think point has been made here. Has it? We can go on to, what am I going to do now? Okay, so the point of that being that we spend a lot of our time, and in the personal development sessions that we tend to go to, we try to manage the symptoms without addressing the cause. So those are all symptoms, reacting like that. They're symptoms that I'm afraid, that fear is operating in me. In fact, fear is taken over. I'm in the back seat. Fear is driving. So there's symptoms, and any attempt on my part to try to control the anger, try to control the people pleasing, try to manage, I'm not going to get anywhere because they're just symptoms. I have to look at the cause. The cause is fear, right? And so how am I going to do that? Well, and I get frustrated, and I actually get a bit disheartened, and I can sometimes get a little bit hopeless with myself that, I've been trying to control this anger thing for years and I'm not getting anywhere. or this people pleasing that kicks in, whatever, or my fleeing at the first sign of difficulty, because I'm afraid, I don't know how to deal with it. I just get frustrated with myself. So in the conflict resolution world, some of you may know this very well, there is what we refer to the owl, and the owl style. It's a great metaphor because the owl is a bird that sits in a tree, and the owl sits above the forest and looks down at, this is a wisdom response, a wisdom strategy. And the beauty of the owl as a metaphor is that by sitting up high, it's kind of got a detached perspective of what's happening down in the forest floor, right? It works at night. So it's got vision that isn't based on eyesight, right? So the inner vision, using your wisdom, your intuition, that silent voice inside to look at a situation, the third eye, not your physical eyes, because what you see with your physical eyes will give you cause for one of these reactions. So the owl is a wonderful metaphor for the night sight, night vision, seeing, the invisible in the dark. Also, the owl is able to turn its head 360 degrees. I can't do that, but you get the idea. They can turn completely around. So they've got a 360-degree view of the situation, which is great perspective, right? They can see what came before, what's happening now, and where this is going, or where it's likely to go unless I come up with a wise response, right? So the owl sits up. And the beauty of an owl is it can see a mouse from 60 feet, and it can, its accuracy to pounce on that mouse. It swoops in, gets the mouse, and leaves clean, accurate, effective, very efficient. So in the same way, when I use the strategies I'm about to suggest to you, it begins by rising above the situation and looking at it, detaching from it. I can drop into the situation with a wise response. Now, the wise response might be to say, I think I need a little break from this, but it won't be a turtle scurrying away. It will be silence and peace required in this situation. It's a wise application of what the turtle is really trying to get. Or it might drop into the situation, say, this situation requires a little straight talk, a little honesty, but there will be no anger there. Or maybe I need to be a bit logical and think this through a bit more, bring a bit of the fox. Or this situation needs a bit of love. But the owl will enter the situation with a wise response, completely dependent, completely determined, situationally appropriate, not always the same. If it's always the same, it's a reaction, right? But a wise response. So we're going to play with the owl as a metaphor because it's such a wonderful metaphor. And what I'd like to do is explore 3 principles that are connected to how we resolve the fear. So all of that was set up for this, how we're going to work with it. And I don't know about you, but my first line of defense is always courage. Whenever fear comes up, and I realized about 10 years ago, I've been studying with the Brahma Kumaris now for 25 years. And about 10 years ago, somebody said, you're just so courageous. And I thought, you know what? I am so fed up with courage. It's a great virtue. Love it. Thank you. It's done me the world of service. But I'd really love to be fearless now. Could we just move on to fearless now? Because, of course, you only need courage when you're afraid. And so the reason I've become so courageous is I've had so much fear. But I haven't noticed all the fear that's been in me until I started meditating. And now I'm seeing like this memory of this, crib. That only came up about 10 years ago. It was not a memory I had until I started meditating, and it starts to reveal things inside of you that you don't even know are there. And how wonderful that I can trace that back now. The fear that seems to have controlled me for so long had an origin that's quite old, right? So yes, but first line of defense is courage, which means feel the fear, face the fear, and do it anyways, right? So at least courage keeps me facing the situation, even if I'm taking a break from it for a moment, right? But the fear inside of me requires courage to look at it. Also the courage to say, I'm not a bad person. because I have fear and because I have these fear reactions. So first line of courage is always defense, first line of defense. But I'd like to explore 3 kind of spiritual principles that apply to the fear story, the fear we have within us. So the first one is staying true to a higher principle allows me to stand on a higher platform. When I work with organizations, the ones that are, their purpose in life is to make money. Their purpose is profit. Typically, in those organizations, yes, thank you. I'm just a meditator. Those organizations I work with, whose real focus is just profit, they tend to not work through the difficulties that they're facing, as well as the organizations that have a higher principle. The higher principle can be as simple as we want everybody in this organization to feel like they belong, to feel well cared for, to feel like they matter. Even that is a higher principle organizationally is much more sustainable. People are more willing to bring their energy into solution finding. At a personal level, I discovered very early in situations where I was afraid, the thing I could stand on, the platform, always the highest platform I could stand on, was something that really mattered to me, peace, or being honest in this situation, or as a minimum, not being a coward, being courageous, being dignified, shall I say, being dignified, a higher principle. And when there is a higher principle, you rise above the fear. You stand higher than a fear. Always the energy inside a higher principle is greater than the energy of fear. You just have to hold it long enough. Stay true to a higher principle. So I know for me as a meditator, I found out early I'm a peaceful soul. Okay, I'm a peaceful being. Great, I get that. It's a good idea. But I've had enough of those experiences over the years that I know it to be true. I am a peaceful being, even if I don't feel it in this moment. So faith required in that moment to remember the higher principle. But always I stand slightly higher than the fear if I stay true to the higher principle. In this case, I'm going to be peaceful in this situation, no matter how terrified I feel inside. Keep coming back to the higher principle of peace. Energy is there that lifts me above the fear. Principle number 1. Principle number 2, a pure intention will always be protected. Organizationally speaking, when there is selfishness always gives birth to fear. Where there is greed organizationally, it breeds more greed. Where profit is the only motive, there's more greed. It's not sustainable over the long haul. Pure intention is, and it will always be protected. I've seen this time and time again, and seen it in my case. I remember the first time I went to the in-laws' house when I had decided to be a vegetarian, and I was terrified because I knew how anti-vegetarian they were. And I myself come from a strong meat family in the west of Canada, which is cattle territory. My family were ranchers, historically speaking. So cows were a big part of my life. And when my parents found out I didn't eat cows anymore, well, it was shocking and a great upheaval in my family. And so they harassed me for years about it, made jokes, made fun of me. And I said, it's just, I want my health. I gave all the good reasons, but they made a lot of fun of me. And I remember the first time I went to a big family gathering with the in-laws. I mean, your own family can bother you, but the in-laws was different. And I really wanted them to like me. And it was Christmas. And of course there would be turkey and I just remember thinking, okay, look, I'm just doing it for my health. I'm not righteous about this. I don't want to convert anyone. I just quietly want to have a very pure intention that I would be able to know them as they are and that they could get to know me as I was. And sure enough, I helped in the kitchen to plate all the meals. And my sister-in-law, who was new to me, was plating all the meals with me because she was the chef. It turns out I watched her and she took the turkey off of one plate. and gave extra. And she said, well, this is for, your husband, her brother. This is for him. Oh, he'll love that, I said. And then I noticed that she left a plate empty. And I said, well, who's that for? And she said, oh, that's for me. And I said, you're not having any meat? She said, oh, no, I don't eat meat. And I went, no, seriously? You don't eat meat? She said, yeah. I don't think they've ever noticed. And here I am in the kitchen at this big gathering when I was very afraid. And who knew? Sister-in-law doesn't eat meat. And simply by offering to help, I also got a platter with no meat on it, and nobody noticed. Finished. So I have seen countless times in my life where I have taken the time to find out what is my pure intention, somehow the scenes shift and change, and it's always protected. Selfishness? No, sorry, not much protection out there for selfishness. So check yourself. And the last of the 3 spiritual principles I'd like to share is trusting the law of positive return. So if you look at your life and you know that you're someone who gives, then always, no matter how fearful the situation may be, you can trust that you will receive something out of the woodwork from somewhere. Someone will come to help, or the situation will change to help. So invest your energy in the giving. 3 laws. I'm looking at my time, realizing we've only got a few more minutes to go through these. So I will move on to the 3 steps now, if that's okay. So this law of positive return is really important. And I see it all the time in terms of people who are facing really tough challenges in their life. Like right now with the COVID, the number of people that have lost jobs and that really don't have any money, and you see which ones are helped. The community gathers together and helps them, and which ones somehow still seem to struggle on their own. And you can see very clearly those, well, because they never really helped anyone else. And the other ones who are always helping others. People come forward and offer them bits of work, or offer them, food or whatever is needed for the family. It's really lovely to trust that. So principle number 3, trust the law of positive return. On we go now to the 3 steps I'd like to share with you. And then we'll do a short meditation and some Q&A. So meditating in the center there, inner space, wherever. Step number 1 for me has been, and this is a step where as a facilitator and consultant, I would maybe not say these words. Actually, I would. To a senior leader in an organization, I would ask them, what are you afraid of? And it'll be pretty clear for them what they're afraid of. But for me personally, dealing with my own fear, it's the last question I tend to ask myself is, what am I afraid of? And the last thing that I'm inclined to do, because I'm inclined to just kick into reaction style, last thing is just to admit to myself that I'm afraid. And instantly that diffuses fear. It disappears. It's such a pure question. It's such an honest, innocent, caring question. And it's an innocent stance internally, is to admit I'm afraid. It's like I become a child again. I'm afraid. All my defenses are down. All my reaction styles have been put to bed with this simple step. I'm afraid. I'm really afraid. Great. Already we've broken through all of the coping mechanisms that, okay, got me this far, but I don't really want to react anymore. And asking, what am I afraid of? And in this moment, I actually become a detached observer of my own reactions. And this is where meditation's been helpful. I remember Mike George early when I started meditating saying something like, an emotion, I don't remember his exact words, but basically emotion can't survive observation. So the more I observe my anger or anything, it just dissipates. It just can't stand being looked at that long because it's not who I am. It's an add-on. And I'm the one looking at it. Therefore, I have repositioned the scenario to be the one who's looking at, oh, that thing, which isn't me, fear, anger, anything. So the minute I realize I'm afraid and I admit it to myself, then I can instantly see my own reactions. I can actually see where they're going to and they're not helpful. Step one, critical first step. Second step is to release any selfish intention, any selfishness, any ego, any greed, any of the things that are operating in me. I can see them more clearly when I'm detached, and any old memories. So I tend to associate, the fear, the situation in front of me may trigger a memory of a time when that did happen. And boy, did I get in trouble, or I suffered, or whatever. So I have to sort of release any intention of my own that isn't pure, and any of the old memories that have come up somehow that are still in there operating. And ask myself, what is my pure intention in this situation? What is my pure intention in this situation? Because standing on a pure intention, I'm on a higher platform. Always a better place to stand, and it is protected. And I can look at myself and say, oh, for goodness sakes, well, that's a beautiful intention. I'm sure it will be fine, or in some way it will happen, but it gives me the power and the courage to face the situation. And the third is to use whatever knowledge I have from my studies, my personal development study, any of the spiritual knowledge I've gathered, to connect with God, to sit quietly in meditation or prayer and reset my energy. And I may have to do that again and again and again and again and again. But that's step 3. And I can't usually reset my energy unless I've done the first 2 steps, has been my experience. Unless I've actually admitted to myself I'm afraid, there's going to be some subtle control or manipulation or escape maneuvers operating in me. These turtle, fox, owl, shark and teddy bear, they can get very, very subtle. And I might be manipulating it without knowing. I don't even notice my own reaction style. I have to start here. This is the time out. This is what calls a close to all the reaction strategies. And then to say, what is my pure intention? That is my best defense against fear. And then, courage is my first defense, but my best defense is my pure intention. And then through prayer and meditation, resetting my own energy. Okay. I think I've arrived at the time where I'm supposed to answer questions. And I do have, though, some blessings that I would like to give you, and they're owl related. So I'll count on you, Vicki, to let me know whether we should do a little 2-3 minute meditation now just to absorb all of that. And then we go into Q&A, or whether we save 5 minutes at the end for the meditation and the blessings. Let me know.
Okay, sister, it's good to have the meditation first, and then we can have the Q&A after your short meditation.
Oh, it's me who can't hear. I turn my volume down. Go ahead.
Yeah, that would be lovely. Thank you.
Which one, Vicki?
So it would be good to have the meditation first, the short meditation, and afterwards we will go to the Q&A.
Okay.
That would be lovely.
And then blessings at the end?
Yeah. Okay.
Great. Perfect.
Thank you so much. Great. Yeah. Thank you.
All right. So here's our, let's just do a little short meditation. And I'd like you to be in this stance if you can, or in this stance, whatever works for you. But let's just take a moment. That was a lot of information. And it's helpful just to absorb it by taking a moment of silence. So just draw your energy inward. You're probably already in your head thinking, maybe in your heart, feeling things. Just take a deep breath so you can be in your body. Let it out very, very slowly. Just settle your body in the chair. And come inside now to the room in your head, the place where you think, which is actually the mind. As the one who's been listening now for the past hour to all of this information, there are thoughts and ideas floating around in my mind. Just allow those to settle for a moment. Settle on the floor of my mind so that I can just be quiet and peaceful. And more than anything, that I can just feel empowered. Knowledge empowers me. Something from this session will be useful to you, is useful to you right now. Catch that, whatever that is, and recognize it as your own. We add this wisdom now to the inner resources you have within you. As a being, you are full of everything you need. In God's light, all of those inner resources are activated. Hold the energy of power and peace and quiet confidence in your mind as you open your eyes and come back to the gathering. With any questions that you might have.
So it looks like Om Shanti, sister. So it looks like everyone has been really inspired, more than really what we can take to be able really to initially to face fear, okay, which would be really good enough. So first question that pops up here is, how do you deal with the fear of the destruction? How do you deal with the fear of the destruction?
Right. So we see so much around us now, don't we, of things falling apart, things being destroyed from the climate effect, on us. My parents are in the fire zone of Alberta, Western Canada right now, and are being told to evacuate any minute. So, there's a lot of fear. A lot is being destroyed around us. Here we have hurricanes, so I've experienced that. And I've been in war zones before in the Central America, and I faced bullets and I faced rifles and guns. So I know what it's like to face destructive things. And I guess for me, the only thing I have to go on is, I don't know why I feel that on the other side of anything bad that happens, or troubling or distressing or destructive, there is always something better. And when I look at the destruction that's happened in my own life, always something good, something different, but something good has always come from that. So I don't know why that gives me reassurance or calm. I hope I will be sensible and dignified during any destructive things that happen to me. And more than that, I hope that I will be helpful for others. So I hope that helps. And I don't think too much about it. I know we've lived through a couple of years of a politician to the south of us who makes everybody talk all the time about this. And I just somehow I don't feel the need to talk about it. I don't put my energy there. I put my energy on creating, environments where people feel safe, or they feel hopeful, or they feel cared for or reassured. So I hope that helps. Thank you, Luciana. It's a tough question. Thank you.
It is, yeah. Okay, so enlightening, sister. So next question is it acceptance that makes us stronger?
Ooh, lovely. Well, thank you. That is the answer. That is, you've answered your own question. I believe so. I believe we waste a lot of energy in the reaction itself. Like being a people pleaser is a lot of work. Being angry and having to deal with the fallout of that is a lot of work. I find that there's a lot of energy wasted in that. And just by accepting that I am afraid and that fearful things are happening already, my energy is now going to a different strategy, a different method. So yes, thank you for that. Very helpful.
Yes, indeed, sister. So it looks like, so let's see, anything more? Well, what we have come here, really their great appreciation for tonight's talk, that really it made a difference, I suppose. To start with that platform that you were saying, I think we have built that platform that you're saying, and really to sustain it will be another thing. But it's worth going, what you have given us tonight. So somebody is asking if they can again listen to this over. Yeah, it would be available in the YouTube link. It will be in the English version. So
Yes.
that would be for everyone who would be interested to go over again.
Okay.
So it looks like everything is clear as the way it is. It is indeed. It's just the way that we are going to go through. So maybe we can move on to.
I'd like to do the blessings.
Yeah,
but also, Vicky, what I'm noticing is that there is one question that has come. I can see it's come to me directly. So if it's okay to answer that, it was how to handle the fear of uncertainty. May it be a job or a sickness or unknown situation that's prevailing right now. And you know what? I think uncertainty is probably one of the greatest things we're afraid of, isn't it? And in a way, what we're afraid of is that we're not sure we will be able to handle what comes. And so I would encourage you to focus on your inner resources and a lot of teddy bear talk to yourself about how you have what you need, and look back at your track record of when you have dealt with difficult things and what you did bring to the table, what you did bring to those situations. Because the fear of what's coming and the unknown, really the fear is that you won't be able to handle it. But actually you will. You will be able to handle it. And actually, you will be able to handle it. You just forgot. Because that's what fear makes us do. Makes us forget how amazing we are. So just remember how amazing you are, please, and you'll be fine. Okay?
Okay. Yeah.
Here are your takeaway blessings for the grand finale. Okay. So each of these is the power to face, and you're going to have to pick which of these lovely owls you like, because this will remind you to be an owl and to go up above the fear itself, okay, to a higher platform. So everybody pick one of these 4 owls in your mind, please. And then I'm going to read aloud to you the power that each of these has. And Vicky, I'm happy to send Ansuya Ben to send you the PowerPoint itself, and you can but I know the YouTube is there, so people will be able to remember there. Yeah. Okay, everyone here we go. Those of you who picked this owl, isn't he beautiful? The power to face. So you have to say to yourself, I am powerful. I communicate feelings and needs maturely. Free of fear and anger, my respectful words liberate everyone from evil. Okay, so this is the blessing for those who picked this owl. And take the picture of it if that's helpful. Okay, those of you who picked this owl, snowy owl, you are to say to yourselves, I am powerful. I face trials and tribulations free from fear, knowing that every challenge strengthens and guides me. Every challenge strengthens and guides me. Okay, for those who chose the snowy owl. For those who chose this beautiful flying owl, you are to say to yourself, I am powerful. I confront my own doubts and fears, which are really just paper tigers that threaten to sabotage my happiness, and I dispel them with courage. So, facing your own doubts and fears. And those who chose these two cute little owls, it's the power to face. You are to say to yourselves to build your strength to overcome fear and worry. I am powerful. I hide from nothing and no one. I open doors of understanding and let good wishes perform their own magic. Aren't they lovely?
They are so lovely,
Sweet.
sister.
They're so sweet,
Yeah.
aren't they?
Yes, yeah, indeed. Yeah. So really, I ran out of words what to say tonight. So it's just more than, let's say, awesome, perfect. But really, what I could say in behalf of the others with us tonight is you have presented so much wisdom and understanding that really made us to see that there is nothing in life to be feared. It is just to come up with that understanding, which is the start that we have tonight. If we really take on to ourselves, it being on that platform that you're saying will really enable us to be free. And so many souls tonight would be so thankful that you have opened the door of the cage of fear. A lot of us are in that cage of fear, and you just have provided that key, powerful key. And really the blessing, really, we can keep to be able now to go to that platform that you are saying. So really, thank you so much, sister. It's worth going through what you have presented us tonight. So, and to every one of us who joined, we really thank you also for always joining us in this endeavor. And we can all fly together and really enjoy life as it is. So hope to see you again in Bahrain, sister, yeah, when the time comes.
Thank you. Thank you,
Yeah.
Vicky, for the warm welcome. It's been lovely. I've seen enough faces. It's really beautiful to see the faces. Thank you, Rebecca, for being with me. You were the friendly face I was able to speak to through the whole thing. I really appreciated that.
Yeah, there was one.
Thank you, Louise. And
Yeah,
okay.
okay.
Anna,
So,
Louise, Isik, thank you, all of you.
okay, thank you
Take
so
good
much.
care.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Yeah. Bye.